Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. Thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, welcome to the broadcast. We're taking a look at some of the stories covered in today's dailies. So make sure you grab yourself a copy. Joining me in studio to help us deliberate on this matters and more, Sakwa Bunyasi, Member of Parliament, Nambale constituency. I'm also joined by Professor right here, Mutisia, who is an economist. Thank you for your time, as well as our other guest, who's definitely not a new face to the show. And I'd like your take on this particular matter we were discussing right before we took the break, Mwakesi, on the statistics that have been released on this particular study, where thousands of girls seem to have gotten married and not have resumed learning due to the long break, quote unquote, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Your quick reaction to this?
Well, Jesse, when you consider the numbers as they were presented in this particular study that was presented by the Deputy Chief of Staff, Ruth Kagia, you could tell that the analysis that was done was not quite robust as you would anticipate from the ministry, and it's also a huge indictment on the capacity of both the ministry and the Ministry of National Government and Internal Security and Administration, because they during the COVID period had a simple role of ensuring that students who were out of school were kept in a manner that they would not be indulging in such kind of activities, and also ensuring that the community would work together to ensure that as many of these students are kept in a responsible way of living as opposed to what they would be doing while being in school. So I think for me, it's quite a very incriminating numbers and grim numbers for the government itself. However, my thinking is this. We have these statistics. 500,000 people young people have dropped out of school. There could be a fourth wave of COVID. What is government now doing to ensure that in the event that we have to shut down schools again, that we can be able to keep our students safe and away from this kind of activities that lead to early pregnancies and marriages and dropping out of school eventually? I don't think we have a robust mechanism in place yet. Remember, during COVID period, one of the things that was being touted was to be able to do online learning and utilizing the television and programs like that would have kept students preoccupied during that particular period. I have not seen any robust policy mechanism coming forth in the education sector that will ensure that students, in the event of any such an outbreak again, they'll be kept quite busy and away from idleness and succumbing to this kind of extra activities. So in my view, I think the onus is on government going forward to ensure that they've come up with robust mechanisms. These teenage pregnancies have been happening year on year, regardless of the question of COVID. I think we need a proper national discourse on seeing how we can be able to tackle this challenge and ensuring that we keep as many young people in schools as possible.
Yeah, quite so. That's the goal. Not just education, but quality education. More details on page 8 of the Standard. Gentlemen, let's shift focus to politics. And Sakwa Bunyasi, I beg to ask, what's happening in NASA? Page 5 of the Standard, they mention 3 NASA principals plot to ditch Raila. And on the other side, on the Nation, they sort of mention that the One Kenya Alliance is built on sinking sand. Gideon's loyalty to One Kenya is in doubt as he skips key meetings. Well, what's your say on this, building alliances?
I think that, as usual, the media runs a bit ahead of the actual facts. It pulls along, I think, the facts. But a couple of truths. One is that the NASA Alliance has difficulties working as was originally intended, and that's obvious in the public domain. Yeah. And I think Honorable Musalia Mudavadi is the one, he put it quite nicely when he said there is a trust deficit. There's a complete lack of trust both among, within and between the principals. And clearly, you can't run an alliance along those lines. However, NASA exists in technical terms because the agreement is, so to say, valid, but not enforceable. So it has very little value, even though it's there. But it can be invoked. I guess if someone went to court and argued that you are still committed here, can't be committed there, and so on and so forth. But I think that it's fair to say that NASA in practice is dead. NASA in legal terms exists, but that has little utility. That's one. The second thing is the One Kenya Alliance is an idea that's evolving. Nothing has been penned really on the One Kenya Alliance, so we aren't there yet. One Kenya Alliance is not in the same league as NASA or Jubilee, which have got statutory instruments backing them. One Kenya Alliance is a club that is seeking to get formalized, and of course some people will be right at the center of it, others will be at the edge, stepping in and stepping out, waiting for the moment when they must decide which side to do so. So I think we need a little more patience on that. Lastly, there are many interests within those perceived alliances and outside. The outside interests to the alliances are seeking to woo out members from within the alliance. The alliance itself will be seeking to woo in members that are in other alliances or not in any alliance as yet. It's still a state of expected chaos. So I think that we'll have to live with that for a bit. Now, the only thing is that I find a little disturbing is that Kenyans have now gotten used to watching politicians like celebrities, like we do in the film industry. You look at somebody and say, oh, that's Denzel Washington. And, people sort of say, wow, that, and so on. You look at somebody else, and there are many, many things, examples you can give. None, in all of this, despite our serious economic issues and political issues threatening the smooth functioning of this country, there's no discussion on that. Nobody is saying if the One Kenya Alliance came together as it's proposed to be, what kind of policy framework are they likely to bring to bear? What do they believe in? How they run this country differently, both from a political and an economic point of view. And we're missing an opportunity. We're going to stampede into the elections with no direction set at this rate, except just the celebrity interests that we might have. So that's my only frustration about this process. Thank you, yes.
Okay, well noted. Personality-based style of politics, perhaps. That's what we're dealing with as a country. Mwakesi, your take on this, and perhaps your voice on the state of coalitions in the political landscape in the country. Because come 5 years, we see new outfits, same individuals. The next 5 years, they shift goals. What are we left with? Talk to us.
Thank you for that, Jesse. I think I like what Honorable Sako Bunyasi has said. I mean, we are now into very much celebrity politics more than anything else. If you can tell from what happened yesterday, it's just a bunch of 3 guys who stood outside a door and took a photo, and we're supposed to read all manner of things into that, and nobody knows anything beyond what they discussed. Of course, the fact that one person was not in the photo, Gideon Moi, has raised a whole lot of concern that maybe, oh, Gideon could be looking at different other things. We're not being very objective on how we analyze how these formations are going to affect our future in terms of politics, and rightly said, in terms of economics and what the big picture will be come 2022. In my view, I think the bigger headache for all these parties has been the question of what to do with 2022 now that it is not very clear who the big flag bearer or forerunner in that election would be on the side of NASA or vis-a-vis OKA. The president has been putting a lot of people in limbo with his statements that he's opting to look at one of the principals in NASA or within that coalition to be able to become the person he'll back come 2022. And so this has led to a lot of jostling around. Murathe is quite clearly saying that their preferred candidate is Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga has been skirting around the issues of whether he should be the one running in 2022 or not. And so this chaos is being formed because ideally there is no clarity on their end who exactly is supposed to be the front runner. On the other end, it seems there are people people who are really against this idea of being confused at this particular critical moment. Charity Ngilu has been saying that it's important that they get their act together, or else they'll see a storm coming, which probably the implication that she was trying to put across is that William Ruto is still looking very formidable going forward. And you can see from his end, it's quite clear that he's the front runner, and he's very focused in what he's going to do come 2022. Okay. So I think in the next few months, 13 months remaining, we will expect a lot more of these discussions around coalitions, the formation, the dissolution of the same. There'll be a lot of organized chaos in the political front until they can be able to agree on who they will be able to front to be able to form a formidable match against the deputy president. But I think the deputy president is soldiering on quite well. Mudavadi is trying to single himself out. He's been clear in his mind that he carries the dreams and hopes of NASA with his party, and he's going out to do party recruitment. Let's see how this comes out. But Kenyans are watching, but Kenyans are more interested in seeing how their lives can be bettered within the next few months, because things have been very difficult for Kenyans for the past year and a half. Okay.
Prof, do you think we can walk away from personality-based style of politics? Because when I get the lingo from the politicians right now, the top league, some mention politics of reciprocity, promises that were made that haven't been kept. What do you make of this?
Well, I concur with my colleagues here that one, there are no political debts. So in politics, there are no debts, and it becomes a bit confusing when a very established and experienced politician comes on screens like this one and tells us that there was a promise that he or she will get this in 5 years or in the next election. Given that we've seen the kind of evolution of our politics that has taken place over the last 30 years. And two is that when you get closer to elections, this is what happens in Kenya. And there's nothing new, actually, that the same, I don't want to call them monkeys in the same trees or in the same forest, there's the same faces, the same personalities, shifting from one camp to another to somehow remain relevant and project their personal interests. Why you see this happening now is because 1 year before the elections, not even 1 year, I mean moving forward, we are going to see so many alliances and coalitions coming up. Actually, we did not know which will be the formidable coalitions that will come up between now and April of next year, when, of course, we'll now start the official or formal kind of campaigns in preparation for the August 9th elections next year. But I would like to say the following. One, I think Kenya is a special country. We are in eternal or perpetual politics. We play politics from day one. August 10th, 2022, we'll start playing politics of August 2027. And I think this distracts us from the core mandate of leadership and governance and politics in this country. Instead of thinking more of how to push our politics to promote or to support socio-economic transformation of the country, and of course uplift our people from their levels of development to a better level and compete with our peers in the continent and globally, we are busy sort of asking or fighting for who is going to be the flag bearer of this party, or who should be the president of this country come 2022. And we don't even know what is going to happen, because, I mean, with COVID-19, you can go up sooner than immediately, and you get forgotten before the elections come by. Number two, it is time for us, the voters or the electorate, to reprogram ourselves or repackage ourselves in a way that we are not here to listen to these guys who are always telling us about who should be the president of this country next year. Because we need to see their actions or the activities that they have undertaken or the programs or initiatives to improve the lives of the people. Now, in a situation like today, when we are all talking about the negative impacts of COVID-19, we would be interested in seeing more of sort of utterances that will take us to a better level in fighting or in recovering from the pandemic itself. Now, we don't see this from all this. And leadership is about uplifting or leading people from where they are now to a better level. If we see that, and I think that is why William Ruto is taking leadership and seemingly becoming the lead candidate in the elections that we expect in 2022, because he's resonating with the people on the ground. And he's talking about issues that affect the common citizen, and that would help us, the citizen, to recover very quickly. If our other sort of candidates there, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, if their focus was on how to get out of this situation faster, then at least we'll be able to listen to them. But now we are here just listening to the same things that we've heard for the last 10 years. I mean, 2013, 2017, and now. I think we need to shift our focus from politics of personality, as you put it, to politics of substance, politics of action, and politics of development.
Speaking of politics, Akwa Bunyasi, I just want your brief reply to some of the sentiments that have been aired throughout this week. No BBI, no elections. What do you make of this? Does it resonate with the people?
I do not think it does. And I think that's one of the problems of Kenya, that we have got decision makers who are not part of the establishment, would not know what position they hold. Those are individual views. I think it is important to have some of the reforms that have been outlined in the BBI. But if they can't fit into the time frame as required by law and the Constitution, which is that we have a date for elections, which is August 9th, 2022. If they don't fit into that timeline, then they can't be done before the election. I think we should learn to believe in ourselves and to respect our institutions. Because then if we say, oh, let us change the date so that this initiative is complete before we can hold elections, we are not different from the banana republics we see, where people, a leader doesn't want to go home and simply changes the constitution, changes the timing, even suspends it. I think that the August 9th date has to be respected as a firm milestone that we've got, and let us do whatever we can do within it. Unfortunately, some of those statements which should have just been allowed to slide are highlighted, and now we begin to refocus on no BBI, no elections, meaning even if it means changing the date of election. Remember, to change the date of election means you're extending the term of parliament. Two, you're also extending the term of the president, because the election is the same day. These are major decisions that will have to go back to a referendum before they are decided. Now look at that again. That would be yet another referendum that we would do. So there would be a referendum for the BBI, there would be a referendum for extending the term of parliament and the presidency. There will be elections to worry about, and there are still very many issues outstanding. I think it's just a disaster in my view. I would just like to say that I think our leadership, one of the legacies of President Uhuru has to be to leave a system that is functioning, because now people just can't shout for every corner, both from his part of the game and the parts of the game as well. I think it just gets a little confusing, to say the least.
Exactly. Mwakesi, perhaps as you add your voice to the issue of quality leadership, the debate about degrees for members of parliament and MCAs has been rife throughout the week. Well, what's your take on this? On page 12, an analysis by the Standard says degree requirement for MPs and MCAs good for country's growth. Where do you see it on the line?
Well, Jesse, this is a very interesting subject. I think the popular view has been right now that the requirement for degrees should not be there because it will allow Kenyans to participate and make choices on the persons that they would like. I think the only challenge that comes about when you look at the question of removing the requirement for a degree on the part of the MCAs and MPs, it does have a net effect on how we might end up being asked whether the qualifications requirement for governors and the president should also stand. Because again, the Constitution is very clear that for a governor, you need the qualifications to become an MCA, and to be president, your qualifications have to be with an MP. So the moment you do that, some governors might even go to court and ask that even the requirement for a degree is discriminatory on them, and we might see this whole castle crumble. I think the most important thing that we need to look at is that if we find that our our electorate has become mature enough or is well versed enough to make a decision on leaders based on their leadership qualities and not because of their papers, then we can go ahead and say this issue can be put aside. But seeing that sometimes the requirement for a degree requirement is just a mechanism that is helping us weed out the people who might have the capacity to really understand what's going on and be able to contribute effectively to the growth of our country, this is something that we need to put also into consideration. But just allow me also to say the following. I think in this country, going into 2022, we need to be very cautious because right now the IEBC has put out an electoral operations plan. We are focused on going into election on 9th of August 2022. Any politician who's still out there imagining that there could be a change and a movement of dates and things like that is not being practical, is creating some bit of confusion in our electorate, and they're creating sideshows. I think politicians need to get serious about their run for 2022. There are only two serious politicians in this country who are focused, and that's one William Ruto and one Musalia Mudavadi. Everybody else is imagining things in the air, attempting to imagine that we can create BBI so that they can find spaces. Kenyans are well aware and are woke. They are not the same Kenyans that we used to play around with the games and say, you know, we can change this date, this and that. Kenyans are only waiting for 9th of August to go and decide who is the next president, who is the next governor, who is the next MCA, who is the next MP. These sideshows that are being attempted by political charlatans need to be kept away, and we need to focus on delivering for Mwananchi going forward.
Well, it's only bound to get busier as we draw closer to the 2022 election date. So, gentlemen, your reviews will definitely be of importance right here as we inform the common Mwananchi rather. Allow us to take a short break, but that's the latest that has been covered in the dailies. We've just perused through some of the major stories. Make sure you grab yourself a copy to be adequately informed. When we come back, one of the stories that has made headlines, we'll be discussing it on State of the Economy. The National Assembly's Finance Committee has actually rejected a couple of proposals in the Finance Bill 2021 in terms of taxing bread, flour and motorcycles, which are essential products in our day-to-day lives.